Welcome back to our election coverage this evening. Now the exit poll results are in. Exit polls by local broadcaster KBS show the main opposition Democratic Party of Korea and its satellite party, Democratic United Party, are estimated to have won between 178 and 190 seats. 6 seats of 300 seats, and the ruling People Power Party and its satellite People Future Party between 87 and 105 seats. The opposition party looks to have won a majority based on that exit poll results by the local broadcaster. All right, Toyan, walk us through the exit poll results.
Right, now these are ranges, and the parties, we saw them react earlier, and now we kind of understand what was going on. Now, as you said, the majority seems to be going to the opposition party as it was from the last General Assembly. But what's really in question is the maximum number that the Democratic Party of Korea and its satellite party can take. It says the range is 196. And if you add that to Rebuilding Korea Party's number, even just conservative, it could pass the 2/3 of the National Assembly. So that means the opposition will hold 2/3 of the seats, and President Yoon's veto power will not be effective, given that they can it goes back to the National Assembly, and if 2/3 pass it, veto doesn't matter. So that's what's on the line here at the moment. Before building up to this, we were seeing who's going to take majority, or is it really going to be the 2/3 that the opposition take? But according to the exit polls, at least, what's on the line at the moment is really how President Yoon will fare with the rest of his term.
Mm-hmm. And let's go straight to situation rooms of Korea's two major parties at the National Assembly. Our National Assembly correspondent Lee Si-hoo and Shin Ha-young are following it all. Ha-young, first, let's connect to the DP headquarters. What's it like there? What were the reactions when the exit polls were released?
Good evening, Jungmin. I'm currently at the headquarters of the Democratic Party of Korea, where members of the Election Campaign Committee gathered 30 minutes ago to actually sit and watch the exit poll results together. And cheers and applause broke out at this site immediately after the exit polls were released, which show that the combined seats for the DP and its satellite party, the Democratic United Party, are expected to range from 178 to 196, surpassing the minimum majority marks. And this exceeds the party's target, which was at least 151 seats. And the DP leader, Lee Jae-myung, who is also the co-chair of the Election Campaign Committee, arrived at the headquarters 10 minutes before 6 p.m. and watched the exit poll results with their other co-chairs, Lee Hae-chan and Kim Bu-kyung. He was also clapping with the members, but was relatively calm compared to the other members of the party.
Then, Ha-young, what will the DP be watching for throughout the night?
Well, earlier the DP said 50 districts would be contested areas, while officially projecting winning 110 seats for elected lawmakers. And there have been also forecasts suggesting a range of 120 to 151 seats, or even more, when factoring in proportional representation seats and results in competitive districts. The DP expressed confidence viewing the high early voting turnout, particularly in the metropolitan area and the traditionally liberal Honam region, as a sign of increasing public dissatisfaction with the government. And ahead of the election, the party said it aims to achieve a total turnout of 71.3% of this year, assuming that exceeding 65% would be advantageous for the party. And in the meantime, some candidates are reportedly going to monitor results in their campaign offices until late into the night, and the same goes for Lee Jae-myung. He will return to his constituency's election office in Incheon's Gaeang district and will continue watching the vote count there. Jungmin.
And now to you, Si-hoo. What's it like there at the PPP's campaign's headquarters? What were their reactions when the exit polls were out?
Right, Jungmin. So I am here at the People Power Party campaign headquarters set up within the National Assembly Library. And as you mentioned, the exit poll results came out just about 30 minutes ago. And with the PPP expected to win about 85 to 99 seats, you could see the lawmaker candidates and also the party members immediately disappointed but now anxious about how the night's course will run. A solemn atmosphere fills this room at the moment as we speak as they hope for a reverse in the race. Now, Han Dong-hoon, the party's interim leader who took charge of its election campaign, arrived here not long before the results came out. Throughout the day, he's encouraged people to go out and vote on social media, counting down the hours left until voting officially closes. He's also reportedly sent out final messages to the candidates saying that they should do their best to make every vote count and encourage the voters.
And Shihu, what will the PPP be watching for throughout the night?
Right, so the PPP has repeatedly aimed for a stop to a large majority opposition. In the previous National Assembly, out of 300 possible seats, the party occupied around 114, which has repeatedly led to a push of bills by the opposition, which were later vetoed by the president. Now, the PPP's main priority during this election has been changing this structure so that the party and the administration can actualize more of their agendas. Now, what they really want to avoid is the case where the opposition across parties occupies over 200 seats. In this case, the opposition may use their large majority to push for a constitutional revision in the National Assembly and also restrict the president's right to veto. The party has asked the people to give them enough seats and the power so they can do the work they want to do. And this stance remains unchanged at this headquarters at this moment. That's all I have for this hour, but I'll be back with more updates in a later newscast. Back to you, Jungmin.
Lee Shi-hoo and Shin Ha-young live from the National Assembly. Thank you. Now let's take a look at how the third parties are faring. Our Kim Jong-sil is live on the line. Jong-sil, what's the latest?
Jungmin, what a night really, and a surprising turn of events took place also for the third parties as well, as you saw. Now keep in mind that the exit polls conducted by KBS, NBC, SBS are done on 500,000 voters at over 2,000 polling stations across the country today. The results vary depending on broadcasting stations, but we bring you updates according to KBS. Now let's take a look at the number of seats expected to have been secured by 조국혁신당 or the Rebuilding Korea Party. Now the number is 12 to 14. The party, which is headed by former Justice Minister Cho Guk, was hoping to secure at least 10 seats through proportional representation in the 22nd National Assembly. The party is not so much of a third party as it is closely affiliated with the Democratic Party. The party even suggested people vote for the DP in constituencies and then for the RKP in proportional representation, as people here get to cast two ballots, one for the regional seat and one for proportional representation. Now, that is a system in South Korea of voting in which a political party is represented in proportion to the number of people who vote for the party in the election. Now, party leader Cho Guk has risen as a dark horse in this election as the party's proportional representation support rate rose to 20% in recent surveys. Given his party was only launched last month, the rise of Cho's party could set a different tone for the remainder of the president's term, as Cho is threatening to bring justice to the incumbent. Now, let's take a look at the new Reform Party. That is another party we need to look at tonight, 개혁신당 or the New Reform Party. Now we're still looking at the Cho Guk's party. Video is still showing, but I am going to give you more details on the New Reform Party. That is being headed by former ruling People Power Party leader Lee Jun-seok, who is looking at 1 to 4 seats. Now you're looking at a video of that party as well. Now his party may look at 1 to 4 seats. I repeat, which the party launched in this January, was hoping to secure 6 seats from a regional and proportional representation votings. Now a lot of focus is actually on whether the party leader Lee Jun-seok will win this time on his fourth attempt to enter the National Assembly as a lawmaker. The 39-year-old launched a no-sleeping election campaign in his region, Dongtan, Gyeonggi-do Province, a region with the average age being the youngest in the country, for the past 2 days, and there were concerned voices within the party that he might pass out from not eating or sleeping. But apparently, the party leader said he would rather die than lose in this election. So we'll have to see how the results go. You're still looking at the party for Lee Jun-seok still. Now, let's moving on to the Saemilre party. Speaking of the new Reform Party leader, Lee Jun-seok, we have to mention what's going on in the Saemilre party as well, which is run by former Prime Minister Lee Nak-yeon. Now, KBS exit poll suggests 0 to 2 seats for the party, as it did not meet the limit of 3% of total votes, only securing 2% as of 6 p.m., but we'll have to wait until final numbers come in. Experts say the Saemilre party lost momentum ever since it decided to part ways with the new Reform Party back in February, after just announcing to integrate to show harmony and unitedness of the third parties. Former Prime Minister Lee Nak-yeon, the leader of the Saemilre party, called for final support until the last minute, but it wasn't enough to change the voters' minds, some experts say. You're now moving on to the 녹색 정의당 or the Green Justice Party. 0 to 2 seats are expected to have been secured for the party, according to KBS again. Formerly known as Justice Party, recently changed its name to Green Justice Party, which experts say might have gotten voters a bit confused, as they are more familiar with the name Justice Party for the past 12 years. Now, that's all I have for now, but we will for sure know more as we head into the night. Back to you, Jung-min.
All right, thank you, Jung-sil. Now, I want to get our experts' views. Professor Ritchie, are the exit poll results in line with your expectations, or are there any surprises?
So, yeah, I expected the Democratic Party to emerge victorious and with a majority, which they did, but I admit I didn't expect them to have that much success. That's a significantly higher number than I would have thought. So I think that's a sort of a surprise, and I mean, obviously for the People Power Party, this is a disaster. If this holds up, this is a disaster. This is an absolutely execrable showing, and the party will have to figure out what it's doing wrong, and the president will have to figure out what's not going according to plan in terms of what it is that the people want. I was also sort of looking at that on the flip side, a little bit frankly surprised that the scandals that Lee Jae-myung has been involved in didn't drag his party down more. I'm kind of surprised by that, considering the way that they're connected to things that are very close to Koreans' heart, like real estate, and the sort of use of political power as a way to make yourself rich, which in Korea has become an incredibly touchy subject here. So that I'm surprised that didn't drag down his party a little bit more. And I'm a little bit surprised, frankly, that the Chokuk Party, the Rebuilding Korea Party, did as well as it did. Not in terms of what we saw over the last week or two, or the last 10 days to 2 weeks, when indeed we saw the polls were showing that he was doing pretty well. But if you would have asked me a month ago or 5 weeks ago whether or not his party would have this much success, I think I would have again probably said we should push the brakes a little bit here. That I don't think that he'll get 12 to 14 seats. I would have bet that it would have been a lower number. So I'm marginally surprised by that number of seats, at least compared to what my expectations would have been a month ago.
And Doyeon, what do you read into the emergence of third parties in this year's election, including Saemilre Party, led by Lee Nak-yeon, the new Reform Party by Lee Jun-seok, and the Rebuilding Korea Party by Choguk?
Right, but considering exit poll results right now, as Professor Ritchie mentioned, that Rebuilding Korea Party seems to be making a difference in the scene, right? They could potentially be the tip of the scale to turning the National Assembly to 2/3 opposition. And the other parties like Saemilre Party and New Reform Party, they originate from the main two parties. The Lee Nak-yeon, the leader of Saemilre Party, used to lead Democratic Party of Korea. but had to leave Democratic Party of Korea to form his own. And so did Lee Jun-suk, right? He was chairman of People Power Party at once. So they saw the need for this third choice by the voters, right? And when they first started, they definitely saw this because they tried to form an alliance to be the third party, but that fell through. And looking at the exit poll party, the demand was there in the beginning, but as the election day closed in, it doesn't seem like they made that big of a difference as they had hoped when they first formed. So, but as we have been saying, rebuilding Korea parties surely is making a difference, and the leader, Cho-guk, is obviously a very fierce opponent to President Yoon Suk-yeol, right? With former justice minister, he has been outright about trying to saying that President Yoon has too much power over certain things, but again, like Professor Ritchie said, that Lee Jae-myung's scandals didn't affect the voters. Cho-guk's court decisions, right? These are not allegations at this point. We have the two lower courts already deciding that he is guilty. We only have the Supreme Court left. So that's sort of a surprising effect as well, right? A lot of voters didn't seem to have considered that.
So you are focusing on the emergence of the Rebuilding Korea Party by Cho-guk. And how will tonight's results impact the country's state affairs post-general election?
Right. Before, if we were talking about it, we would talk about, can President Yoon have more power in terms of policymaking, or will it be the same with the opposition having the majority? But now, at this point, as we have been saying, we could put the presidency in a lame duck administration before even the halfway point of his term, right? He's vetoed 9 times so far, and that includes the nursing system, law related to the nurses in the country, Grain Management Act, and other laws. And by far, that's the highest number within that period of time for a president. So how will it turn out to be for President Yoon? Will it be the same with the majority, the opposition holding majority, passing laws by themselves, and President Yoon vetoing and trying to wait out until People Power Party will have more power, or will that even be not effective anymore? That's sort of the state affairs big question at this point.
And Professor Ritchie, how do you expect tonight's results will impact Korea's diplomacy amid the complicated geopolitics on and surrounding the Korean Peninsula?
Yeah, so if we take this election as a referendum on President Yoon Suk-yeol, which doesn't seem like that's a controversial thing to say, I think that this obviously puts him in a tough position. In domestic policy, of course, he'll have essentially no capacity to move forward on his agenda, and this will be a bitter defeat for him and his allies and for his party as a whole if these numbers hold up. In foreign policy, I think we're going to see an interesting question, and that is, to what extent is Yoon going to be, for lack of a better term, a team player or a party player? And to what extent is he going to push forward on the agenda in foreign policy, security, and defense policy that he thinks is important to him, but that might be problematic for the party? Because obviously, everyone starting tomorrow is not only going to be looking at what's going to happen in the next legislative session, but also looking forward to 2027 and the presidential election. Yoon Suk-yeol can't run again, as he's term limited to 1 5-year term. And that means that the PPP is going to be beginning to jockey for position in terms of who's going to be running for president and the lead up towards that election over the next few years. So is Yoon going to essentially put himself sort of, for lack of a better term, a little bit isolated at the levers of foreign policy, security, and defense policy, where he, as president, still has a lot of power and isn't so hamstrung by being a lame duck president, and push forward on an agenda in foreign security and defense affairs that are important to him and important to the voters for his party, but that might be problematic for swing voters and those people that obviously they're going to need to vote for them in 2027 if the PPP wants to maintain the presidency. And of course, that's a question that's to some degree about your philosophy and your character and whether or not you, agree to, as president, to moderate your position on some things when you feel like you've received a message from the voting public that perhaps they don't agree with some of the things that you're doing. But more importantly, he's going to have people inside the PPP who are probably going to be wanting him to pump the brakes on some of the things that he's been doing because they're looking forward to their political future. His political future is essentially done. It's essentially done tonight. His political future is done. But there are people around him, and of course, especially party leader Han Dong-hoon, who do still have a political future, and they're worried about 2027. So to what degree Yoon is going to be able to push forward on these foreign affairs issues partially depends on the jockeying that's going to be taking place within his own party. I'll throw out one last other thing, of course, and that is if as we think, the Democratic Party gets to 180, and certainly if they get to 200, they can start meddling quite some bit more in his foreign policy choices. Among other things, they could perhaps cut off funding in the budget for certain things that he would like to do. And on some things, if he were to push in a way that they wouldn't want, and the DP were to have 200 seats, at that point you could also be talking possibly about impeachment. So this is going to be a pretty significant challenge, and I think it's something that we're going to learn something about Yoon's character. He doesn't seem like the type of person who likes to compromise. He doesn't seem like the type of person who tends to back down from the things he believes in. So my assumption is he's going to continue to go full bore as much as he can towards the priorities that he thinks are right. But to what extent he's able to do that, I think is going to be an interesting question over the next few years.
And finally, Do-yeon, tell us about some of the key battleground districts and what are the key swing districts?
Right, and the most significant ones that we can point out is the Gyeang-bi, where the DP leader Lee Jae-myung is running against Won Il-young, former governor of Jeju Island. So those two political heavyweights were there, and Won Il-young specifically chose Gyeang-bi district to face DP leader. Second, we can consider Jongno. It's a significant district because it used to be where Cheongwade was, the former presidential Blue House. So it was it symbolized to a certain degree a very important district in the political scene. Now, Kwak Sang-hun, son-in-law of former President Roh Moo-hyun, is running against incumbent Choi Jae-young of PPP. The recent polls may have favored Kwak Sang-hun more. Another district that we see on the map is the Dongjak-B district, where Ryu Sam-young of Minju and Na Kyung-won, or Ryu Sam-young of DP and Na Kyung-won of PPP is running. Na Kyung-won, again, used to be a major politician in the PPP, and now she's trying to come back into the scene. One of my not favorite, but most interesting places that I was trying to look into was Bundang districts A and B. Now, Bundang A is very important because An Cheol-soo used to be the presidential, he used to be a major politician in the PPP era, and before that he had his own party and emerged as a heavyweight in the ruling PPP. But Lee Kwang-jae, a three-time lawmaker from Gangwon-do province, is trying to run against him. So these are two political heavyweights. And Kim Eun-hye, President's former senior secretary for public relations, is running at Bundang B. Now, she used to represent Bundang A, but she was running for Bundang B against Kim Byung-wook, the incumbent of Democratic Party.
All right, Mason Ritchie, professor at Hankuk University of Foreign Studies, and our political correspondent, Kim Do-yeon. Thanks for your insights.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. And that wraps up our special coverage of the 22nd general election for now. We will be closely following the actual results, and we'll come back with more updates at midnight Korea time. Thank you for watching.